Random thoughts. So in this video, I'm going to talk about major errors that I made when I talked about the fig tree. I did a video where I talked about how so many societies in Africa and outside Africa and current societies and societies that have existed a long time ago have had this relationship with the fig tree and have treated the fig tree to be very sacred. And I did talk about among the Agikuyu, they have, and this is where I made an error, I talked about the Mugumo tree, and then I talked about Seymour Tweet among the Kalenjin and Mukuyu, which is another error, or it's a similar error, or it's the same error, but in the two groups or two societies. Now, so this is the error actually. The error is that I confused two types of fig trees. This is what is called the strangler fig tree, or the scientific name for it is Ficus thorningi. Now, this Ficus thorningi or strangler fig tree is what is called the Mugumo tree. And yeah, it is a sacred tree among the Agikuyu, but it's not as sacred as another one, the Mukuyu tree. And actually, the identity of the Agikuyu people come from this tree, the Mukuyu tree. And apparently, Gikuyu is basically a big Mukuyu tree, which means the Mukuyu, the scientific name for it is Ficus sycamorus, and its common name is the sycamore fig tree. So I confuse the two. And among the Kalenjin, the strangler fig tree is called Seymour Tweet, while the other one, the sycamore fig tree, is called Mukuyu. Now, still, both fig trees are sacred in most societies, and but seems like the Mukuyu, the sycamore fig tree, is more sacred than the Mugumo tree, even among the Gikuyu, even though there is a lot of talk about the Mugumo tree in the Agikuyu land, or at least that is the impression you get. But even the Agikuyu have or treat the sycamore tree as a more sacred tree, especially considering that actually the name of the Agikuyu people come from this tree, and there is maybe some deep symbolic meaning to this tree, the sycamore tree, and the Agikuyu identity. Now, the sycamore tree was also treated as a very sacred tree in the ancient Egypt, and in the ancient Egypt, apparently it was considered to be the tree of life, which is interesting, and we will never know for sure why it was called a tree of life in ancient Egypt. Apparently, even today in Egypt that we have today, there is a section of that society that treats the sycamore fig tree as very sacred, and it's a Christian section of the Egyptian society. Essentially, we know it as the Coptic Christian Society, or the Coptic Christians. And there is a place in Egypt called El Matareya, where there is a specific sycamore tree, and this sycamore tree is called the tree of virgin, and it is associated with Mary, mother of Jesus, and Joseph. And apparently the story is Joseph used to walk with a walking stick that was made from a sycamore tree, and at some point that walking stick was buried at that particular place, and then the sycamore tree grew there, and is very sacred, and people go there as a pilgrimage site actually. And the story is that that tree has been there for thousands of years, but there is also another story that when the tree is about to die, they cut a section of it and plant. So it is a continuous like cycle, or a continuous generation of or a continuation of that same tree. Now, somebody left me a comment in that video that I did about the Mugumo and the sycamore tree, especially regarding the relationship between the Agikuyu and the fig tree. And he said that actually, as I've said, the Agikuyu take the sycamore fig tree to be more sacred than the Mugumo tree. But then he was trying to explain as to why Mugumo tree came to be talked about a lot more than the Mukuyu among the Agikuyu. And he said that the sycamore tree is less available in the Agikuyu land, in the highlands or around Mount Kenya, but the Mugumo tree is more recent. And so the Agikuyu could not get access to the Mukuyu tree that often, and so they chose to replace it with the Mugumo. That's the story somebody said in the comment section, so it's not like it's a proven fact. Maybe that could be true. And then somebody else said that actually the Mukuyu was treated as very sacred, and Kikuyu people will sacrifice under this tree for generations. And it's only in the last maybe 100 years that the shift has happened towards the Mugumo tree. And according to this particular individual, he says that that was thanks to Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, is the one who drove the community more into focusing into the Mugumo tree. But before 1900s, the Mukuyu was the actual tree that the Agikuyu people used to worship through, or offer sacrifices to God through, or treat or venerate, or of course treat as very sacred. Yeah, so that's the error I made, but still the Mukuyu or the fig tree or the sycamore fig tree in particular is treated as very sacred, not only among the Agikuyu and the Kalenjin, but also among the Luya, among the Kisi, among the Maasai, as I said, ancient Egypt and India, or some societies in what we know today as the Indian subcontinent. Yeah, so those are my random thoughts.